Welcome back, everybody, to the Detroit Koolaid cast. Big Hughes in the house. Oakley on the other end. What up?
What's going on, everybody?
So today we're talking about probably the biggest question of the Lions offseason when it comes to a player move. They have a guy that they were drafted high in the draft a handful of years ago. Contract's coming up. Big question is, what are the Lions going to do? So, Mr. Oakley, I will ask you, what do the Lions do with Ziggy?
Big Hughes, man, we've talked about this before, and I'm not sure that we're on the same page on this one.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we are, but just looking at it right now, I I was not a fan of Ziggy being drafted here when he was drafted. I have seen him come along. He's a physical freak, and but these injuries are killing me. So, with that being said, there's definitely something to consider, but. Looking at the landscape of who's out there, and this guy's going to be a top D end if we keep him or not. So I'm going to try to find a way to I'm not a fan of the franchise tag regardless. So I'm going to try to find a way to work a deal with him, maybe a 4-year 40 or, a little bit more than that, see if I can get him under that type of deal, 10, 12 mil if he's not going for that. I'm going to continue to see what I'm going to do, but at the end of the day, if I'm pushed into it, I'm probably going to consider the franchise, keep him for one more year, see if he shows out under Matt Patricia, and if he doesn't, he can walk at that point. But I don't think I'm ready to let him walk right now and leave our defensive ends empty. So that's my thought on Ziggy right now versus what else is out there and what else we can do. So I'm keeping him around either long-term or on a 1 year at this point.
Yeah, I think at this point we're still on separate pages because I'm letting Ziggy walk. I think a long-term deal, he's going to want too much money because he knows that's what he can get on the open market, and he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would, quote-unquote, hometown discount you. And the transition tag's going to cost $17.5 million on him. And to me, he's just way too inconsistent to be paying that kind of money. Now, if this was the conversation we were having at the end of the 2015 season when he had 14.5 sacks, I would have said, yes, absolutely pay the man. Because he was a different player 2 years ago. Not only the number of sacks, but I just felt like you saw Ziggy flash on TV a lot more than you did this past year. Like, sure, I understand he finished with 12 sacks, but you know what? 6 of those sacks came in the last 2 games. The last 2 games that really after, a couple games didn't really mean anything. So to me, like, I understand that he had 12 sacks last year, but I just don't see him being consistent, staying on the field healthy. He had 2 sacks in 2016. He had 6 sacks in 2017 until the last 2 games, and 3 of those 6 sacks came in the Monday night game against the Giants. So you're talking about 13 other games where he had 3 total sacks. So to me, I can't justify paying somebody that amount of money. I think one of the ways the Patriots became good is they found guys who weren't necessarily big-name guys and made them decent players. So I think that's the same boat they're going to go here. And Mr. Ziggy is going to be signing a fat contract with another team. So that's my take on it. Yep.
Real quick, though, I got to jump in. So who are you going to find other 6'7", 270-pound rush ends, or who are you going to play at defensive end if you're going to let this guy walk?
Well, if you let this guy walk, you either hope that you can find somebody in the draft at number 20. You hope one of those guys slips, or you just kind of stick with what you got, or you find a veteran guy who's out there. I mean, there's not many free agent guys who are available. But if you gotta go another year with Anthony Zettel and Kerry Hayter on the outside, then that's fine until you can find somebody that you need to. But
it's not fine. You can't have Kerry Hayter and Anthony Zettel start in the NFL. But I get your point. We don't want to break the bank, but I'm telling you, these guys don't walk around the street all day. And if you don't have a good game plan of who you're going to replace him with, you got to consider keeping. So I respect the letting him walk and being financially responsible, but I definitely think we got to protect when we have good players, and this guy has shown he can produce. He just has to be more consistent and has to stay healthy, which we say about most players in the NFL. So, if he walks, I'm not going to the team is not going to be broken, but I'm saying new coach, new everything, maybe find a way to keep him, and if you can't, like you said, look at a guy like Claiborne who can come off the edge and create some havoc, as well as getting some. You're really going to have to go in the draft and replenish, because rush ends are not easy to find and super valuable. So, if you hit some home runs, great, but if you can't. So we'll beg to differ here, and I also think that it'll be interesting to see how it plays out come Tuesday of this week. They're able to start tagging people, and we'll know a lot once if they go right off the bat, or do they kind of let him sit there and wait for a while. It'll really be interesting to see. So fun to have two different perspectives and real interesting. This is a pivotal point for our team, depending on not only what they do with this guy, but if they do keep him around, what does he do? Because he's produced and he hasn't, and it'll be interesting. Could really impact our team long term.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, the hardest part for me is just that $17.5 million that's popping off the sheet, because I don't know, man. If you're going to sign this guy, can you give him a long-term deal based on his consistency, or you want to give him one more year and see if he can do what he did? I mean, it's a tough question. It's a tough spot for Matt Pat to come into, with him and Bob Quinn hip to hip trying to make this decision. It's like you said, it's pivotal. That's why, us diehards are split in half, so it'll be interesting to see what those two can come up with. But it's probably right now the biggest question of the offseason for our Detroit Lions.
No doubt.